Stocks trend upward as the Dow Jones has a winning week. The Supreme Court sends down another decision that supporters of the president may or may not like. We will see what happens there. A senior staffer for the Trump administration gets hired and then immediately steps down in protest, and Jennifer Lawrence, for whatever reason, decides she's going to join Twitter. I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Alright, guys, sorry about the long title card today. I had to bump my volume up just a little bit, so I saw that probably was something where you couldn't hear me, and now I think I have it fixed. So, we've got a ton to get to today. Happy Juneteenth, everybody. I do have to say, and this was part of the reason that we had the title the way that it was over here, I was aware of what Juneteenth was, but it never had this kind of celebration as much as it's having right now on this side of the Mason-Dixon line up until just recently, just this past year. So that was something interesting to see, and I actually do have to wonder how many people knew what the day was before a couple weeks ago when Trump decided to have a rally on that day. And I also have to wonder if he hadn't decided to have the rally on that particular day, if anybody would still know what it was. So it's a curious thing to look at, and we will be looking at an article about making it a federal holiday here coming up. But before we get started, head on over to freedomscoop.com. Freedomscoop.com is going to be your one-stop shop for all of your news and commentary needs. We have got the Generational Gap, we have got the Daily Ignoramus, we've got my show, we've got the Already Conservative. We still have nothing uploading here, so I'm going to have to check with IT to see what I've got going there. I don't know if I've got live chat either right now. I'm just kind of looking over there, and I don't think it's moved yet. Usually Helton's in here ready to go, so if I don't see it here in the next few minutes, I'm going to kill the live chat and restart it here. But we've also got the Freckles and Brit show and the Wyatt Birkenhoff show, so go and check all that out over there. Check out all of our swag, and we will have new swag coming in as well as we move along here, and as we have some change over on the website. So go and check us out. All right, we will start today looking at the stocks, and it looks like we had another fairly even day on the stock market. I think it dropped just a little bit as we went along. Yeah, let's go ahead and get that restarted, just to make sure. I got to make sure that you guys are heard, because we will be reading everybody's live chat today. So let's get that restarted here. You can see my horribly messy desktop again. Sorry about that. On-air production, the best thing in the world. So let's go back and look at the Dow Jones again. Looks like, yeah, like I said, we had a pretty even day. Of course, I waited too long to bring up the image, so now we're seeing what the previous close was of yesterday's close instead of the day before's. So, but it looks like it went down just a slight touch, but the futures are telling us a story that we may see it go up again as we go along. So let's move along down the road. From Investors Business Daily, a Father's Day advertisement. Everybody, hooray! All right, let's see what we've got going on here. From Investors Business Daily, Dow Jones futures rise in strong week for coronavirus stock market rally. 3 breakouts from this hot sector from Ed Carson. Dow Jones futures rose early Friday along with S&P 500 futures and NASDAQ futures on China trade optimism, signaling a solid end to a strong week with the coronavirus stock market rally. Thursday's mixed session was quietly bullish. The software sector remained strong. Salesforce, Paylocity, Alteryx broke out, while Zscaler, Shopify blasted above short consolidations, while 2019 IPOs, Cloudflare and Datadog keep running. Less dramatically, Microsoft and Adobe are both rose more than 1%. Tesla continues to trade right around the 1,000-point mark. Tesla stock got a huge price target hike early Thursday, while the electric automaker is closing on a deal for the Cybertruck factory in Austin, Texas. He's moving. He really is. He's actually going to do it. So we'll be following that story along as we go. Shopify stock and Cloudflare stock are on IBD leaderboard, along with Adobe stock, Microsoft stock, and Tesla stock. Net stock is also on Swing Trader. Microsoft stock and Adobe stock are on the IBD long-term leaders list. Salesforce stock is on the long-term leaders watch list. Paylocity stock was Thursday's IBD stock of the day. Alteryx stock was highlighted Wednesday, and Cloudflare stock on Monday. Dow Jones futures climbed 1.1% versus fair value. Dow Jones Industrial Average futures suggest a possible test of the 200-day moving average. S&P 500 futures advanced 1%. NASDAQ 100 futures rose 0.85%. Wouldn't it be something we actually did? I don't anticipate this happening, but wouldn't it be something if we actually hit a 30,000 Dow before everything got back to normal, or before the election is where I'm looking for. If before election day we hit a 30,000 Dow, wouldn't that be something? I mean, of course, we have to adjust for inflation as well, but still, after everything we've seen, to see a 30,000 by the end of the year, and we were headed to that direction, but wouldn't that be something? Dow Jones futures climbed 1.1% versus fair value. I read that paragraph already. China reportedly will step up purchases of U.S. agricultural goods, a positive sign for the Phase 1 trade deal. Remember that overnight action in Dow futures and elsewhere doesn't necessarily translate into actual trading in the next regular stock market session. Early Thursday, Dow Jones futures fell in a volatile fashion, missing the DJIA's modest tame decline. All right. Let's see the dissenting opinion, and then we will move on to the news. From CNBC, Dow futures rise 350 points as Wall Street heads for a winning streak. This is from Fred Imbert. U.S. stock futures were higher early Friday following a muted session in which traders grappled with disappointing unemployment data and worried about rising coronavirus cases. Futures gained amid a report by Bloomberg News that China was set to up its purchases, that's the way that's phrased, of U.S. farm products to comply with a Phase 1 trade deal. The report eased concerns about U.S.-China trade relations as the two countries exchanged heated rhetoric regarding the coronavirus. Dow Jones Industrial Average futures rose 350 points or 1.0%. The move implied a higher open of 300 points. S&P 500 futures added 0.9%. NASDAQ 100 futures also gained 0.8%. And that, of course, is at the end of trading yesterday. This is a 14-hour-old article. On Thursday, the Dow Jones closed just below flatline, while the S&P 500 and NASDAQ eked out small gains. The major averages gyrated between gains and losses for most of the day. At one point, the Dow had fallen more than 270 points. A report Thursday showed initial U.S. jobless claims totaled 1.5 million last week, topping a Dow Jones estimate of 1.3 million. But how many people went back to work? That's got to be the big question, and it's the one that nobody will ask. So we'll keep that in mind as we go along here. The number of new jobless claims fell for the 11th week in a row, but this week the improvement was much smaller, even compared to last week's upwardly revised figure, said Ken Berman of Guerrilla Trades. While the May jobs report was much better than expected, this month's job-related indicators were far from stellar, and that could mean that the pace of the recovery is slowing. Meanwhile, the number of coronavirus cases continues to rise in certain parts of the U.S. Texas, California, Arizona, and Florida all reported its biggest ever one-day increase. California, not so much, but for the most part, they were all pretty small to begin with. But we'll be following this one along because I'm sure this will affect the election some way or another. Some investors fear that a resurgence in coronavirus cases could lead to states retaking stricter quarantine measures to curb the spread, thus thwarting expectations of a smooth economic recovery. To be sure, those increases come as states ramp up testing. And that's what you also have to remember as we're going along here is we do have ramped up testing. That's going to be the big part of this is if you test more, you're going to find more cases. But hey, what do I know? I'm not a doctor. So that's what we're looking at in stocks here, and we'll be watching this as we come back to this on Monday and the futures over the weekend. Let's keep going into the news. Top of the news today from KXAN out of Austin, I believe Texas. Yep, Texas cases. Out of Austin, Texas, lawmakers push for Juneteenth to become a federal holiday. Companies offer paid time off. Let's see what we've got going on here. There's a growing list of lawmakers pushing for Juneteenth to become a federal holiday. Republican Senator John Cornyn announced plans to introduce a bipartisan bill Thursday. Earlier in the week, Democratic Representative Sheila Jackson Lee of Houston did the same. Not only are lawmakers working to recognize the day, but more and more companies are also making Juneteenth a paid holiday first for many. Companies such as Target, Google, JCPenney, and Twitter all love to virtue signal to show you how woke and how amazing that they are. I actually got an email from my bank saying that they are also using it as a banking holiday and what to expect for hours running around that day. So, Juneteenth we always celebrate, he said, but there's always these background tensions when remembering or kind of memorializing slavery. Thursday marks 155 years since the news slavery was over finally reached Texas. The news came more than 2 years after the Emancipation Proclamation. In 2020, full equality between the whites and persons of African descent does not exist today, Francis explained. In the wake of George Floyd's death, the demand for justice and equality continues to play out in widespread protests across the country, putting a national spotlight on Juneteenth. I think it's a confluence of many things. Obviously, I think the main factor is the response to the viral video murders of the people like Ahmaud Arbery, George Floyd, Breonna Taylor. You guys didn't care about Breonna Taylor until George Floyd was laying on the ground. Those were not the first bits of news we heard about black people being murdered, but I believe this came at a time of COVID-19 when everyone is on lockdown and hanging onto their phones, so viewership was wild. Francis also believes the president's move to initially host a rally on Juneteenth played a factor, but he said the attention could be useful and potentially lead to Juneteenth becoming a national holiday. However, he said, in order for that to become a reality, it will require some buy-in from local, statewide, and federal entities. And now, I'm just beginning to understand what Juneteenth was, and that's pretty common among this side of the Mason-Dixon line, because it's more of a Texas holiday than it is a federal holiday. And I understand the federal significance because, from what I understand, the last place to hear that slavery was over was Texas. So, there is that, but, a big part of the reason, like I said, the reason that we understand what this is because of the president's rally in Tulsa that was supposed to be today. And that's part of, I said it right at the beginning, I don't know if we would actually know what this was if he hadn't decided to hold the rally that day. I think that it was just the mob looking for something else to be outraged about. And furthermore on this, they mentioned the fact that this was the day that the news reached Texas. If you're looking so hard to celebrate the end of slavery on a national level, why not celebrate the anniversary of the Emancipation Proclamation rather than Juneteenth? Yes, I understand why it would be a big deal in Texas, but as far as the rest of us go, I guess I would rather celebrate the signing. But, of course, that would also be celebrating the fact that a Republican president did something, but that's another story for another time. All right, let's keep going on down here. From Fox News, Tulsa mayor declares civil emergency ahead of Trump rally. Stragglers face arrest. This is from Bree Stimson. Supporters can cheer on President Trump, but they better get home. Tulsa Mayor G.T. Bynum, a Republican, declared a civil emergency Thursday and announced a curfew near the arena where Trump plans to hold a campaign rally on Saturday. Bynum cited civil unrest, expected crowds in excess of 100,000 in the vicinity of the rally, and opposition protests in his decision to place a federal exclusion zone for a 6-block radius near the arena. I received information from the Tulsa Police Department and other law enforcement agencies that shows individuals from organized groups who have been involved in destructive and violent behavior in other states are planning to travel to the city of Tulsa. No way! For purposes of causing unrest in and around the rally, Bynum wrote in an exclusive order. The arena is also asked the campaign for a written plan outlining how it will incorporate social distancing and other health and safety steps. Well, their house, their rules. The BOK Center, which can hold up to 20,000 and had people lining up outside of it for more than 2 days ahead of Saturday rally, cited an uptick in coronavirus cases in Tulsa, Oklahoma as the reason why it requested the plan. The campaign was already going to provide masks and hand sanitizer for each attendee, and there would be temperature checks at the door. But GOP chairwoman Ronna McDaniel told Fox News she believed masks would be optional, and there's been no apparent social distancing plan or similar system for the indoor event. More than 2 days before the rally, Fox News spotted Trump supporters already lining up to camp outside the venue. Supporters have been seen lining the street since Monday. So you are prepared to sit out here for 5 to 6 days, a local reporter with KFOR asked a group holding a Trump 2020 flag this week. We're here till after the rally, one woman told the reporter. According to the Trump campaign, more than 1 million people have registered online for the first come, first serve rally, which has a capacity of just under 20,000. Those supporters were required to sign a waiver releasing the Trump campaign from responsibility for possible exposure to the coronavirus. So, we do have to look at the fact that there are a lot of outside forces here that are looking to make sure that Trump doesn't have a chance to have these massive rallies again. And I do think that the coronavirus, as engineered as what it was, and the coronavirus is real, I understand that entirely, but the reaction that was engineered to go along with that, I do think has a lot to do with the fact that they didn't want to have these rallies going. And now that we see the fact that there's going to be rioting and protesting around this, the rioting and the protesting will protect you from the coronavirus, so do keep that in mind. If you see all these Antifa thugs coming around you, that will protect you from the coronavirus. So make sure that they're close as they're coming in and rioting and protesting. But in all reality, as we look upon this and look at this, they're trying to have curfews, and these outside groups are trying to make sure that this rally doesn't go off. And my God, I've got some hope out here, because I remember 3 years ago during a Trump rally, when they had rioting going on outside the rally, I do remember very clearly a certain individual who was protesting outside and had tear gas thrown at him as he was rioting, kicked the tear gas back at the cops, and wound up taking a pepper ball square to the nads. I just watched that video not that long ago again, and 3 years later, it's still funny. But this is what we have to watch for as we go along with the campaign season going forward. Let's keep moving on here. In negative news for the president, once again, from NBC News, Supreme Court blocks Trump from ending DACA in a big win for Dreamers. I need a moment for this because this is tremendously stupid. But, hey, there are a couple things at play here. From Pete Williams and Adam Edelman, the Supreme Court ruled Thursday that the Trump administration cannot carry out its plans to shut down the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program, which has allowed nearly 800,000 young people known as Dreamers to avoid deportation and remain in the U.S. Chief Justice Roberts was the swing vote in the 5-4 decision, which deals a big legal defeat to President Donald Trump on the issue of immigration, a major focus of his domestic agenda. Roberts wrote in the decision that the government failed to give an adequate justification for ending the federal program. Well, to be fair, the previous president failed to give an adequate justification for the beginning of the program. But, hey, the administration could again try to shut it down by offering a more detailed explanation for its action. But the White House might not want to end such a popular program in the heat of a presidential campaign. That's going to be important. Let's read on just a little bit here before I weigh in on this. Roberts was joined in the majority by liberal justices Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Stephen Breyer, Elena Kagan, and Sonia Sotomayor. No way! We conclude that the acting secretary did violate the Administrative Procedure Act and that the decision to rescind DACA must be vacated. Roberts wrote in his decision. Roberts called the Trump administration's total rescission of DACA arbitrary and capricious. Once again, we're right on the same lines as everything that instituted the program. The heart of Roberts' majority opinion held that Trump had broken the laws governing federal agencies when he ended DACA in 2017 because the memorandum that recommended its termination did not address crucial parts of the policy. In addition, every justice in the majority, except Sotomayor, discussed the argument made by the parties that brought the case to the Supreme Court that the administration's decision to terminate DACA was motivated by discrimination against Latinos. Of course, that was where they were going to go. Critically, however, Roberts pointed out that in his decision that it wasn't necessarily unconstitutional for the Trump administration to terminate DACA, but the way he did it was. I am telling you right now, if Trump wants to win re-election in a landslide, and gain massive amounts of support from the left and back the left into a corner on top of it. If he wants to do all of that, and I'm not a big fan of executive amnesty, but if Trump wants to, if he wants to win re-election, executive amnesty on the DACA program, it would be the best way to do it. And I'm not talking about executive amnesty either, like in full, like Reagan did. I'm talking path to citizenship on the DACA program. And I use the justification for this. I know Seawall hates the fact that I hold this position, but I mean, when you look at it, it's the only way to do so. If you look at this, first off, these kids don't know any other country other than their own. They were brought here, for the most part, against their knowledge. And I do understand and respect that's the case of what happened there. But on top of that, the thing that I've hated the most about the DACA program from the beginning is the fact that it's holding all of these children in immigration limbo, making them pawns for the agenda of the Democrats who want to use them every time a Republican is up to say, oh, well, ex-Republican is going to end DACA. Just give them path to citizenship. Use their DACA documents as the initial documents for the path to citizenship. Give them a jump start ahead so they can go through the review quickly and get them in the country. And watch how fast the Democrats try to oppose it and call it racist, even though all it's going to be doing is trying to get these kids into the country and to a point where they never have to worry about DACA being rescinded again. If you want to solve DACA, that is the way to solve DACA right there. Make it so that these kids can never be used as pawns. And I say kids, most of them are my age. But make it so that these kids can never be used as a pawn again, because that's all they're being used for by the Democrat Party right now, as a pawn. Give them a path to citizenship. Let them go down. Let them choose whether they want to go down the road or not. And if they don't want to go down the road, well, then they got to go. But give them the opportunity to do the documents, do it right, bring them in. You'll have votes for Republicans for quite a while at this point. Another animus to the Democrats, and you'll have the stress of worrying whether or not they'll be deported tomorrow taken off the shoulders of these kids. That's the best way to do all of this. All right, let's keep going. Watch. Rioters burn American flag on fire on top of George Washington statue. Tear it down. This is from Ryan Saavedra. Rioters burned an American flag on top of a statue of George Washington in Portland on Thursday night before destroying the statue by tearing it down. The statue was pulled down by a group of rioters who reported converged on Northeast Sandy Boulevard and Northeast 57th Avenue at around 10 p.m. Some wrapped the statue's head in an American flag and lit the flag on fire, KXAN News reported. Their numbers grew over the next hour until there were enough people to pull the statue to the ground. They quickly scattered. A news crew from the outlet found the statue face down and covered in graffiti shortly after it was toppled. Portland police arrived on the scene, KXAN reported. Journalist Andy No tweeted out videos of the destruction of property, writing Antifa rioters on Sandy Boulevard in Portland draped a U.S. flag over a George Washington statue and set it on fire. They then toppled the statue. Genocidal colonists and fuck cops were sprayed on the monument. Rioters have began to build another autonomous zone nearby. Oh, goody. We're going to have another one. No, continued, the nearly 100-year-old statue of George Washington in the northeast Portland has been pulled down. There are no police in the area. Would you want to be in the area if you were wearing a badge? In the final video, No wrote, another American flag was laid over the top of the statue, or George Washington's statue in Portland, and set on fire. Oh, I thought there was going to be more to this article. I guess there wasn't. No. Anybody who might have been a part of American history, who might have built the institution that led us to Trump, now must be destroyed. And they'll use the justification of slave owners as well, but just keep in mind that the Founding Fathers, when they wrote the Constitution, had set in place workarounds to try and end slavery in the future, and that's one of the big things. And of course, there's history involved in this too. These people set up one of the freest countries in the world. There were, at the time, you couldn't speak out against the government the way that you could speak out against these people, and definitely the way that you speak out about our government today. You couldn't do that. These people did set up freedom for the world, and if you want to erase history, well, just remember, in the words of 1984, he who controls the past controls the future. So I do think that's a part of the reason, or part of the path that these guys are going down. Let's keep going here. Out of my neck of the woods, MPS unanimous. I can't read. MPS unanimously votes to end the contract with Milwaukee Police Department. This is from CBS 58 out of Milwaukee. In a unanimous vote Thursday night, June 18th, MPS passed a resolution to end their contract with the Milwaukee Police Department. The resolution immediately terminates all contracts with MPD and directs the superintendent to stop any contracts to buy or keep metal detectors, facial recognition software, and social media monitoring software. Okay, those last three I'm pretty much in favor of, because that is a lot of that's a lot of big brothery kind of stuff. And I am finally reading 1984, and my God, I can't believe how much these people were using that as an instruction manual. But I mean, we're looking at this too. Metal detectors, metal detectors maybe, but facial recognition and social media monitoring, no. But I do think that some suburban moms in the MPS area are going to be out there trying to find some sort of private security for their precious little children in the Milwaukee public schools. So, let's keep moving along here. The Milwaukee Public Schools Board of School Directors received nearly 900 written testimonies and heard about an hour of spoken testimonies during the meeting on Thursday. Students, alumni, parents, and educators supported it, with one speaker raising concerns about getting rid of metal detectors. According to the district, there aren't officers stationed at every school buildings every day, but they helped at after-school activities and events. The Board of Directors discussed the resolution for a few hours and included a few amendments to the resolution. The board is holding $400,000 as part of a truancy program that is required to have under state law, while it waits to hear from lawyers about how to proceed. The Milwaukee Police Department released the following statement Thursday night. The Milwaukee Police Department fully supports the Milwaukee public school system. If it decides to remove all school resource officers from schools, we agree with the many voices from our community who believe that the funding should be reinvested into our public school system to support social services. Regardless of the vote, MPD will continue to support MPS and MPS students. And this is going to go right on along until the next time some crazed kid in Florida decides to pull out a gun after torturing small animals for years and the FBI ignoring him, and blow away his classmates. And then suddenly you are just going to have those militarized police everywhere in the schools once again. So yeah, we'll see how long this lasts. Alright, let's keep going here. I feel bad for cops, man. I really do. Especially with the Democrat Party being the way that it is. Now, I don't necessarily condone cops, but I do look above the police level at the laws that the lawmakers are making that are illegitimate and for the most part unconstitutional, the victimless crimes, as they say. I do understand and respect that, but cops are saints when they're voting Democrat because their union contract tells them that they probably should, which is a little bit more aggressive than what I was suggesting there, but they hate cops when, well, something else happens with a police officer and an unarmed black man, and we hear about it around the rest of the country. So they're constantly being pulled in a tug of war with the Democrat Party right now. And once again, something I've always advocated for from the beginning, we could probably shrink a lot of our police departments and probably get away with not having nearly the amount of enforcement that we have out here if we just repealed a bunch of the laws that we have at the federal, state, and local levels, because my God, we just have way too many laws. You walk out your door, and on average every day you commit 3 felonies and you have no idea that you even did it. So let's start at the source instead of demonizing people who just want to protect and serve, and, well, in reflection I should say, not and, to the bad apples that walk among them. Let's keep going here. From the Daily Wire, ChickFilA CEO appears to justify rioters burning down Wendy's, urges white people to repent of racism. This is from Amanda Prestigiacomo. Apparently, boycott Chick-fil-A was going around last night, which is nothing new. The left has been trying to boycott Chick-fil-A for as long as I can remember, but now the right wants to too, apparently. That this came to my attention from Jessica Green. From Amanda Prestigiacomo, During a sit-down conversation with ChickFilA CEO Dan Cathy, Christian rapper Lecrae, and Pastor Louis Giglio posted on Monday, Cathy urged white people to repent of their racism and justified rioters looting and burning down a Wendy's restaurant in Atlanta, Georgia, following the death of Rashad Brooks on Friday. That's why this is going around. So, and Jessica Green on Twitter pointed out that the left hates Chick-fil-A because they're religious, the right hates Chick-fil-A because they're trying to be woke right now, and this is just going to make the line into Chick-fil-A that much shorter, so those of us who do enjoy the food for the food can go in there and enjoy it without the line. And my God, I have never been in a Chick-fil-A where there isn't a line around the drive-thru, around the building for the drive-thru rather. So having that line cut down just a little bit is probably going to be a little bit more enjoyable for the rest of us. And my God, I do love their food. And they give you non-breaded options for everything, so my low-carb lifestyle, it really fits right in with that. Let's see. We as Caucasians, until we're willing to just pick up the baton and fight for our black African-American brothers and sisters, which they are as one human race, we're shameful, Cathy said, according to BuckSexton.com. We're just adding to it. Our silence is so huge this time, he said, channeling the far-left refrain that silence is violence. We cannot be silent. Someone has got to fight, and God has so blessed our city, but it's shameful how we let things get so out of whack. Then, before literally polishing the shoes of Lecrae, who is black, Cathy added that white Christians should have a sense of shame and an apologetic heart. Any expressions of a concrete heart and a sense of humility, sense of shame, a sense of embarrassment, an apologetic heart, he said, I think that's what our world needs to hear today. During the same sit-down, the chicken chain CEO seemed to justify the burning down of a Wendy's restaurant in Atlanta on Friday, citing black people's incredible amounts of frustration and pain that white people are simply just out of sight and out of mind, oblivious to. I think before we try to jump into action, I would say that we need a period of contrition and a broken heart in the city of Atlanta, said Cathy, and a sense of real identity, not just criticizing people that are burning down that restaurant. Last night, we've got a heart for the Rashad Brooks and others Lecrae mentioned. We've got to have some sense of empathy of what led to this. This is a tip of the iceberg of incredible amounts of frustration and pain that the whole spectrum of the African American community is feeling, that most of us white people are just simply out of sight, out of mind, oblivious to. We cannot let this moment pass. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry, Dan Cathy, but the left is never going to forgive you for the fact that you personally, let me rephrase that. They're never going to forgive your business for the fact that you personally don't support homosexual marriage. They're never going to forgive you for that. So all you've done at this point is alienate the MAGA crowd who are going to go and do whatever Trump tells them to do. And meanwhile, I'm just going to go and enjoy a short line for a chicken sandwich. All right, let's keep going here. Stepmother of Atlanta cop and Rashad Brooks shooting fired from her job. This is from Edmund DeMarche over at Fox. The stepmother of the Atlanta police officer who fatally shot Rashad Brooks was fired from her job as a human resources director at an Atlanta-based mortgage company for allegedly violating company policy and creating an uncomfortable working environment for fellow employees. Melissa Rolfe, the stepmother of former Atlanta police officer Garrett Rolfe, lost the confidence of her peers, leadership, and many employees who no longer felt comfortable engaging with her, a statement from Equity Prime Mortgage said. The company said it values diversity of thought, but when those views create a hostile working environment, we must make difficult decisions and part ways. Her 27-year-old son was charged with felony murder after shooting Brooks in a Wendy's parking lot last week. Prosecutors said Brooks was no threat to Rolfe and a fellow responding officer despite wresting a taser from them and fleeing. Rolfe's attorney told Fox News earlier the week that the claim that Brooks was running from the cops is untrue. Mr. Brooks turned and offered extreme violence toward a uniformed law enforcement officer. If he was able to deploy the taser, it would incapacitate Officer Rolfe through his body armor, and at that point, if he decided to disarm another officer, he would be in possession of a firearm. It was not immediately clear what exactly Melissa Rolfe said or did to warrant the termination. No, she was related to somebody who was being tried for murder in a high-profile case. That's exactly what this was. She didn't say anything. She didn't do anything. She just happened to share blood with a person. but she referred to her son's case as nonsense in a social media post backing a Georgia congressional candidate. The Washington Examiner, using a Wayback Machine, reported that the woman last appeared on the company's leadership page in May. She is married with 3 grown sons and a grandson, according to the description. So, yeah, this was all in the name of just eliminating and unpersoning anybody who was involved with something that these people don't like. So that's unfortunate, of course, and I do have to wonder how far up the chain this is going to go and how many other people linked to this guy are going to lose their jobs just from the unfortunate event of being related to the person. But yeah, let's keep going here. From the Daily Wire, Twitter attaches manipulated media label to Trump tweet. This is from Eric Quintanar, and this is disgusting. I read this one a little bit earlier on, and this is horrible. All right. From Eric Quintanar, Twitter took the rare step of pinning a manipulated media warning to a tweet from President Donald Trump, who reposted an old remixed viral video of 2 toddlers, one who is black and one who is white, greeting each other with a hug on the New York City sidewalk. In the video shared by Trump, the portion of the video where the 2 toddlers are playfully chasing each other is displayed first, with the addition of suspenseful music and 2 CNN Chyron banners that suggested that one of the children is probably racist and a Trump supporter. The video then pivots to what actually happened, showing the 2 toddlers running up to each other, hugging alongside a version of the song They Long to Be Close to You, and ends on a message to not trust fake news. The video, which was originally posted to Facebook, went viral last September, and it was widely reported in the media that the 2 children are best friends. One of the parents later told Ellen DeGeneres that the 2 children are fond of hugs, hence the hugging in the video. Katie Rosenberg, a spokesperson for Twitter, told the Washington Post on Thursday evening that the president's tweet has been labeled per our synthetic and manipulated media policy, which you have never used up until this point, but throw it at the high-profile president to give people more context. According to CNBC, the parents of the children have responded to Trump's posting through Facebook, with one remarking that the president will not turn this loving, beautiful video to further his hate agenda. So you will use your hate agenda to keep Trump from posting a beautiful video to not further his hate agenda. Got it. Another parent said she was utterly shocked, adding, "For all you Trump supporters, I hope that his use of this beautiful video in this way disgusts you." Well, your reaction definitely does, so. Clicking on the manipulated media warning label on Trump's tweet sends users to the social media website Synthetic and Manipulated Media Policy page, which reads, in part, "You may not deceptively promote synthetic or manipulated media that are likely to cause harm. In addition, we may label tweets containing synthetic and manipulated media to help people understand their authenticity and provide additional context." Dear Mr. President, there is such a thing called minds, and I do think that maybe you should take some time and look into it. So go ahead and check that out, because I think a lot of people's days on Twitter are numbered, and just think of how much more freedom you would have over up on Minds. All right, let's keep going here. From The Hill, senior State Department official resigns in response to Trump's handling of protests. This is from Marty Johnson. A top State Department official who has served since the beginning of President Trump's presidency has quit over Trump's handling of the nationwide protests over the police killing of George Floyd and the police brutality, the Washington Post reported. Assistant Secretary of State for Legislative Affairs Mary Elizabeth Taylor turned in her resignation on Thursday, according to the Post. You privileged little bitch. My God. The privilege of these people. They'll come out and say that other people are privileged, and that they'll turn down a 6-figure plus job just so they can protest. Just out of protest. I do hope that this woman had another job waiting in the wings, given the fact that she's got the clearance and the ability to get this. I'm sure she will, but my God, that's just the privilege to say, I turned down the White House. I turned it down. That just, I mean, you speak of white privilege, but still, you take this privileged opportunity to come down and do something like this. Moments of upheaval can change you, the shift of trajectory of your life, and mold your character, Taylor wrote to Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. In a letter obtained by the Post, the president's comments and actions surrounding racial injustice and black Americans cut sharply against my core values and convictions. I must follow the dictates of my conscience and resign as Assistant Secretary of State for Legislative Affairs. Then why the hell did you apply for it? That's the big question, is why did you apply for this? If you wanted to go out and resign right away. I can't wrap my head around this. The 30-year-old was unanimously confirmed to her position in October 2018, becoming the youngest Assistant Secretary of State for Legislative Affairs ever, as well as being the first black woman to hold the position. Before joining the State Department, Taylor was the White House's Deputy Director for Nominations, where she ushered more than 400 presidential appointments through the Senate, including Supreme Court Justice Neil Gorsuch and Pompeo. She had been viewed as an integral and loyal member of the Trump administration, according to the Post. In her resignation letter, Taylor expressed her gratitude to Pompeo. You should have shown grace and respect in listening to my opinions, and your remarkable leadership have made me a better leader and team member, she reportedly wrote. I appreciate that you understand my strong loyalty to my personal convictions and values, particularly in light of recent events. So, okay, I will walk back a little bit what I said there because I didn't realize that she had been in the White House before. The way that the first article that I saw that led me over to the Hill framed it was the fact that she was fresh to the White House and new. So now reading down into the Hill, I see that she's been in the White House before. However, you were in this position for quite a while because she helped usher Gorsuch through. So I don't understand why this is just becoming an issue now. But I'd love to sit down and talk to the woman. I'm sure she's a little bit out of reach for my small YouTube channel, but I would love to sit down and have the conversation, figure out what's going on with this and where this is coming from. But, it is what it is. All right, let's keep going on down the stack here. All right, Colin Kaepernick has shot to make NFL again with these two teams, Super Bowl winning coach says. This is from Ryan Gatos. NFL teams have been encouraged to give Colin Kaepernick another shot, and at least two coaches and one owner have said that they would consider signing the quarterback if the time was right. The Los Angeles Chargers, Anthony Lynn, Philadelphia Eagles, Doug Peterson, and Las Vegas Raiders, Mark Davis, have all expressed a desire to sign the former San Francisco 49ers star if the timing and the fit was right. However, all three teams have quarterbacks, and signing Kaepernick wouldn't make any sense for any of them right now because he would have to sit on the bench and he wouldn't be able to go out and run his mouth on massive social justice issues. He'd be right back in the point where he was when he started kneeling so he could get attention. Super Bowl winning coach Brian Billick said on the NFL Network on Thursday he sees at least two teams not mentioned above that would be good fits for Kaepernick. I think New England and Jacksonville. Oh, New England. Please do. Please, I want to see that. If you look at it from his standpoint, just in terms of the opportunity, Billick said, Jarek Stidham and Brian Hoyer in New England, and then Gardner Minshew and Mike Lennon in Jacksonville. You talk about an opportunity to be with a team where there might be some flux, might be some meat, and there's uncertainty at that top spot. I could certainly see where he might be interested in those two teams simply because he's going to want to get back on the field, Billick continued. I can't imagine as a competitor he's going to be happy with just sitting on the sideline. Getting back into a routine and then I'll make my move next year. That'd be a prudent way to go, but I think a team like New England and Jacksonville, from a standpoint of a competitor, like, hey, I want to get in there and play right now, I'll make this happen, might be interesting. Kaepernick has not played since the 2016 season. While rust could be an issue, he got a chance to showcase his arm talent in a hasty workout last year. At least one scout reportedly said that he still has an elite arm strength. I don't know, man. I've said it every episode this week, the fact that in that last season, he sucked. Something happened. And I respect the fact that Colin Kaepernick had a great rookie season and a great second season. Because he did beat the Green Bay Packers undefeated for those two seasons, but he just fell off right at the end of that. So I don't know if I don't know if it was a personal issue, if it was anxiety. There's so many millions of other things that this could have been other than the fact that he just wanted woke points and decided that he wanted to do something that got him fired. There's so much else that's going on with this. But given the fact that the statistics show from his last season that he is a D-level quarterback at best. Like I said, if he had just kneeled and he was still playing the way that he was in his rookie season, he would be playing for somebody right now. He absolutely would. But he just fell off in those last seasons. I mean, I said it every episode again this week. Aaron Hernandez killed somebody and continued playing until his prison sentence. And he killed a man. These teams will forego a lot for talent. And Kaepernick did not have it. Alright, let's keep going. Pelosi orders removal of house portraits for 4 speakers who served in the Confederacy. This is from Eric Quintanar. Speaker of the House, Representative Nancy Pelosi, requested on Thursday that the House clerk remove portraits of 4 past speakers who joined the Confederacy of the American Civil War. Tomorrow, Americans will mark Juneteenth, a beautiful and proud celebration of freedom for African Americans. Very sadly, this day comes during a moment of extraordinary national anguish, as we grieve for the hundreds of black Americans killed by racial injustice and police brutality, including George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, and so many others, said Pelosi in a statement. The list of names include 3 congressmen who served in the position before the Civil War, Speaker Hunter, a Whig who joined the Democratic Party after his speakership from 1839 to 1841, Speaker Howell Cobb, a Democrat who left his 2-year stint as Speaker in 1851 to serve as Governor of South Carolina, and Speaker James Orr, a Democrat who served as Speaker from 1857 and 1859. Oh, so somebody went the correct direction. They went from being a representative and a leader, even though it's supposed to be a servant of the people, to go actually do something at a local level. That's the right direction somebody should go. I could probably see why she doesn't want people to know who that person is. Instead of spending, 70 years in Congress? Pelosi also requested that a portrait of Congressman Charles Crisp, who served as Speaker from between 1891 and 1895 and continued to serve in Congress as a Democrat until his death in 1896, be removed from display in the Capitol building. Crisp, who was 16 years old at the outbreak of the Civil War, joined the Confederacy and was commissioned as a lieutenant in Company K of the 10th Virginia Infantry. Yeah, let's just keep whitewashing that history. Let's make sure that nobody ever learns what our history was and do any of the questions. But I'll understand and I'll give the respect if you guys don't want any of this to be in a public building. I do think, especially with the speakerships of these people, that's an important place to have them, is in the public building. But put them up in a museum if you can't have them up in the building. If you can't look at your own history anymore, then put them up in a museum where people can at least still learn and ask the questions. I know that's part of the argument that we have with the statues being toppled and burned down right now, is the fact that the history is going away with all of this stuff. And we do still need to look at history and learn from it. So instead of destruction, put it all in a museum where people can ask the questions. This is interesting. According to Politico, Pelosi had said she didn't know their portraits were on display in the Capitol until she was informed of them. The 3 speakers who served in the position before the Civil War all held prominent political positions in the Confederacy. You've been in the building for a half a century. How did you not know that they were there? Alright, let's keep going here. From Fox News. Jennifer Lawrence joins Twitter after claiming she never would, shares anti-corruption short film. This is from Naledi Ushi. Jennifer Lawrence joined Twitter after adamantly being against social media for years. The Red Sparrow actress joined the platform with the handle @JLawrence_RepUs in early June. I bet she's positioning herself for a political position. Anybody want to put some money on that? I bet she's positioning herself for a congressional position, just by the handle that she put out. Anybody want to take that one? Anybody? She shared her first tweet on June 16th, which was a call to action for the Attorney General Daniel Cameron to take immediate action to hold those responsible for Breonna Taylor's death accountable. I would have to look into the Breonna Taylor case a little bit more. From what I understand, at the time, there was currently no law stating that, basically to bar the action of the officers in question. That's the way that I want to word what I was saying there. At the time, there was no law governing that. From what I understand, there's been a new law now that's been passed that governs what happens with that. But the problem is you can't go back and hold somebody retroactively accountable for a law that wasn't on the books at the time. Otherwise, there would be a lot of people, and there would be a lot of laws being passed for political convenience, and a lot of people being dragged off to the gulag. And yes, I think laws needed to be in place before all of this happened with Breonna Taylor. I really do think that they needed to be there, but you can't just pass a law and then go back and hold people retroactively accountable for something that wasn't there. It was the same thing when I actually put rules in my Discord server, because it was just kind of a lawless place for me to gather up guests. At the beginning, it was a place for me to just gather guests and start the video call when I was still using Discord for Ed's World. That's what I had built it for initially, just for that. But when people started filing in and enjoying the company of others, and some of the white supremacists started coming in and running their horrific ideals around against everybody else, I put rules into place. And the one, I don't know if that was a dude or a chick, it was the furry one that was in there, said, "Oh great, well I've already got 2 strikes against me." And I told him that here's the deal. I'm not going to hold you accountable for a rule that wasn't there when you broke it. You have a clean slate right now. Unfortunately, that's the terrible situation that the municipality that Breonna Taylor was in. That's the horrible position the municipality is in, but that's what's going on. But this is an article about Jennifer Lawrence, so let's keep going on about that. For 3 months since her murder, Breonna Taylor's family, the people of Louisville, Americans across the country, and many around the world have called for justice. Lawrence, 29, wrote, "We must not allow the erasure of black women to continue in America, as many activists and leaders have been imploring for years. Hashtag say her name." Why were you not saying her name 3 months ago? That is the biggest part that just frustrates the shit out of me, is the fact that nobody said her name until just 6 weeks ago. When we started hearing about George Floyd, that was the first time anybody said her name. Because they didn't care up until then. The actress sits on the board of Represent Us, which aims to bring together conservatives, progressives, and everyone in between to pass powerful anti-corruption laws that stop political bribery and secret money and fix our broken elections. Lawrence is currently working on a campaign called Unbreaking America, Solving the Corruption Crisis, an initiative that aligns with Black Lives Matter movement. In the campaign, Lawrence teamed up with people to explain the corruption in America's current government and advise others on how to make the change, such as voting. Anti-corruption. With all the money that Hollywood is pouring into Washington, D.C. I don't know. I guess with the company being called Represent Us, I may lose that bet on Jennifer Lawrence going up and becoming a representative at some point, but I think she's still going to do it. I really do. If she's just now making a Twitter account and deciding to become more in activism and public life, I bet she runs. I don't know if she could win or not, but I bet she runs. All right, let's keep going here. I got 3 in a row from CNN, 1 from Business Insider, and then we'll head on out of here. From CNN Politics, Trump's tail-spinning presidency is in turmoil, even by his own standards. This is an op-ed, which they call an analysis, from Stephen Collinson. If he was any other president at any other time, Donald Trump's re-election hopes would probably be doomed. Trump has endured one of the most disastrous political streaks of any modern commander-in-chief and appears to lack a coherent plan for righting his leaking ship, let alone for triumphing over multiple crises, rocking an increasingly unhappy nation. Yet he's in denial yet again over a pandemic he initially ignored that has killed nearly 120,000 Americans. I will need a citation on that. It is getting worse in many states and is now threatening the economic rebound he's banking on. Top medical experts inside his own administration and science disprove his false claims that the virus is dying out. I will need a citation on that. Trump's history of prejudice and racist rhetoric has left him out of step with the generational racial awakening. A Supreme Court dominated by his new conservative majority just rebuked him twice on cases on LGBTQ rights and immigration, issues at the core of his political project. Facebook just took down a Trump campaign ad because of Nazi imagery. He's lagging well behind Democratic presumptive nominee Joe Biden, who's barely campaigning. I will need a citation on that. in national and battleground state polls, and he's just suffered the most damaging expose by a former White House official in years after John Bolton declared him unfit to govern. Yeah, I don't take John Bolton's words as gospel, and you wouldn't be either if he was still in the administration. You'd be calling him a liar, a cheat, and a warmonger if he was still in the administration. The only reason that you take anything that he says seriously is because he speaks out against the evil orange man. Trump's show of being tough on China, a centerpiece of his campaign, is comprehensively debunked by former National Security Advisor's description of his pleading with President Xi Jinping to help him win re-election. There's an increasing rift between the president and the military after he dragged them into his notorious church photo op. Washington is filled with whispers of Republican lawmakers who appear being dragged down a plummeting presidency. With coronavirus spiking in Oklahoma, Trump, showing huge irresponsibility, plans to hold one of his first mass participation indoor events in the world for months on Saturday as he resumes his campaign rallies in a horror show for epidemiologists and local health officials who warn he could get people killed. Why the analysts won't write Trump off. If Trump loses in November, these last few weeks may come to be remembered as the moment that the Trump train finally careened off the rails for good. Yet among Democrats and those who don't support the president, the fear that he will win a second term anyway is palpable. The man who said he could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue, shoot somebody and get away with it, has created a supernatural political aura exactly 5 years after he descended his golden escalator in Trump Tower and turned American politics on its head. And furthermore, this is the end of what I'm going to read out of this op-ed here, but furthermore, as we look into everything, as we look at everything that's going on here, Joe Biden sucks out loud. He doesn't know where the hell he is half the time. He doesn't understand what's going on, anything, and everybody in America knows that he's just a proxy president to put the first black female president into office at this point. He's just somebody there so they can appoint to power whoever they want to have in power. Joe Biden is not... He's not a presidential candidate. He is a Walter Mondale. There's no way that anybody's looking at this man who said, I have hairy legs that turn blonde in the sun, and say, yeah, this is the guy that I want doing our foreign policy. There is no way in hell that's happening. But as we look forward onto this and we look what's going down onto this, yes, you have a very vocal progressive base of the Democratic Party because they are the ones that want to, but they have alienated reliable Democratic voters for everything. There's an equal chance of people leaving the top of the ticket blank for the president. People who are very politically active that would have reliably voted Democrat up until just this last year, who are going to leave the top of the ticket blank because the party doesn't offer them anything anymore and they can't bring themselves to vote for Trump. That also given the fact that every time a third-party challenger comes up and actually starts making waves in social media, the Democrats fucking panic and say, oh, well, this is a Russian bot that's going to get Trump reelected. They are not going to win in November, and they fucking know it. If you are afraid of the Green Party taking votes off away from you, you haven't put up a good enough candidate to win in November. And you know it. All right, so let's keep going. Speaking of presidential politics, Amy Klobuchar drops out of Biden VP contention and says he should choose a woman of color. This is from Paul LeBlanc and Jasmine Wright. Senator Amy Klobuchar on Thursday night removed herself from consideration to be Joe Biden's running mate, citing the ongoing national discussion about racial injustice and police brutality to suggest the former vice president should choose a woman of color. This is a historic moment, and America must seize on the moment, and I truly believe, as I actually told the vice president last night when I called him, that I think this is a moment to put a woman of color on that ticket. Yeah, they are working on appointing somebody. There's never been this much concern about who the vice president is. Ever. And it's part of the reason that I ask about it on Ed's World every week. Because there's never been this much discussion over who the vice president is going to be. And how important it is to have this X person instead of having that person be the nominee of all people. That's where everything is. And I look at this kind of as a setup. I really do. And there's so many incredibly qualified women, but if you want to heal this nation right now, my party, this is sure as hell a way to do it. Biden offered warm words for Klobuchar shortly after his comments on MSNBC. Amy, from the moment you announced that you were running for president in a snowstorm, it wasn't hard to see you had the grit and determination to do anything you set your mind to, Biden tweeted. You know how to get things done. With your help, we're going to beat Donald Trump. And I love the smell of your hair. Klobuchar was touted for months as a promising vice presidential candidate due to her centrist appeal and name recognition following her own White House bid. But her prospects had waned in recent weeks as Biden faced an increasing pressure to choose a woman of color as his running mate in the aftermath of George Floyd's death and at the hands of police officers. And also given the fact that she did refuse to prosecute this guy, and she's having a harder and harder time hiding that. So, this just keeps going further and further along the lines that the presidency at this point, from the Democratic side, is nothing but a proxy to either have a Mondale up so they have a stand-in so they can say that they resisted, or to appoint somebody into the position of the presidency rather than having to elect somebody. So this is another reason that I think they've alienated everybody at this point. All right, we got a little bit of foreign news and something else back local, and then we will read the names of the people who chatted and get the hell on out of here. Chaos in the Koreas sees Kim Jong-un's sister emerge stronger than ever. This is from Joshua Berlinger over at CNN. On a crisp winter day 2 years ago, Kim Yo-jong took her first step in becoming the powerful politician her father thought she would be. It was February 10, 2018. The youngest child of former North Korean leader Kim Jong-il had already made history by becoming the first member of her family since the end of the Korean War to set foot on the southern half of the Korean peninsula. The night before, she had attended the opening ceremony of the Winter Olympics in Pyeongchang, South Korea. She sat behind South Korean President Moon Jae-in and watched as hundreds of athletes marched together under a flag representing a unified Korea, a country carved in half in the aftermath of World War II by the Soviet Union and the United States, with little regard for the thousands of families that were split apart. Kim applauded these athletes alongside dignitaries like Moon, U.S. Vice President Mike Pence, and Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. It was a tremendous photo op, but a trip to the Blue House, South Korea's presidential residence, was a whole different ballgame. Kim Yo-jong would be the first member of North Korea's ruling family to ever enter the halls of power of a sworn enemy. The morning after the opening ceremony, Kim exited a black sedan to enter the Blue House. She ambled down a red carpet with immaculate posture, her head held high, exuding the confidence of a woman who had been meeting important world leaders for years. She dressed in all black and clutched a black briefcase in her left hand, dark tones that all drew attention to the red lapel pin over her heart emblazoned with the faces of her smiling father and grandfather. As she approached the building's threshold, she paused and, out of the corner of her eye, looked to her left, and she slowed her gait to allow the man by her side, the nonagenarian named Kim Yong-nam, who was the North Korea's ceremonial head of state at the time, to enter first, adhering to Confucian values of respecting one's elders, despite the fact that her family is revered with near religious fervor back home. Kim Yo-jong was North Korea's chief propagandist at the time, and her ability to craft an image was on full display in Seoul. She proved to be the perfect emissary for her country, a savvy, urbane operator who could counter the narrative of her homeland as a strange, backwards nuclear-armed relic of the Cold War that allegedly holds more than 100,000 people in forced labor camps. Park Ji-won, a former South Korean lawmaker and presidential chief of staff, said after 4 meetings with Kim Yo-jong, he came away with the impression of a woman whose intelligence and quiet confidence was beyond her years. She takes after her father and brother, said Park. She is a smart and quick thinking. She is courteous, yet speaks her position clearly. Yeah, Kim Jong-un is dead. Because the media knows it, because they are doing a lot of things right now to try and bolster this woman up as the woman on the world stage. I thought this was going to be a little bit more on her blowing something up or something, but this is nothing but a puff piece to just kind of say, oh, everybody fall down and worship Kim Yo-jong. So, yeah, she's going to be on the world stage here at some point in the near future and possibly negotiating with the first female black president of the United States in 2020 after she's appointed after Joe Biden steps down, or whatever the hell the plan is going to be. All right, last one here. This came to me from Libertarian Red over on Twitter. Lane Joan, most of you may know her as at this point. From Business Insider, Florida Rep. Matt Gaetz reveals he lives with a 19-year-old Cuban immigrant whom he calls his son. This is from Salman Chef. Florida Rep. Matt Gaetz said on Thursday that he lives with a Cuban immigrant named Nestor, whom he calls his son. For all those wondering, this is my son Nestor, Gaetz tweeted along with a photo of him and the man he had identified as Nestor. We share no blood, but he is my life. He came from Cuba, legally of course, 6 years ago and lives with me in Florida. I'm so proud of him, and raising him has been the best, most rewarding thing I've done in my life. In a follow-up tweet, Gaetz wrote that Nestor turned 19 a few days ago and will be off to university. He arrived here at 12, Gaetz tweeted. As you can imagine, I was triggered when, to make an observed debate point, a fellow congressman diminished the contributions of Republicans because we don't raise non-white kids. Well, I have. The Florida congressman's tweet came after he made headlines the previous day for getting into a shouting match with Louisiana Rep. Cedric Richmond during a House Judiciary Committee hearing on police reform. After Richmond discussed the injustice that black people like him and his son faced, Gaetz interjected and asked, "Are you suggesting that you're certain none of us have non-white children because you reflect on your black son and you said none of us could understand?" Dude, I hope that this kid is more than just a trophy piece for this guy. And I trust how a parent could feel about him, but just the fact that you're waving him around like this as a token, I'm sorry, man. You got to lay off on that as well. Richmond cut Gaetz off saying, "I'm not about to get sidetracked about the color of children. We're talking about black people in the streets that are getting killed, and if one of them happens to be your kid, I'm concerned about him too, and clearly I'm more concerned about him than you are, so let's be clear about that." Gaetz yelled back, "You're claiming to have more concern for my family than I do. Who in the hell do you think you are? This is outrageous." Shortly after, Gaetz tweeted on Thursday that Nestor is his son. The hashtag #FreeNestor began trending on Twitter as several Twitter users suggested, without evidence, that Nestor hadn't consented to the congressman posting photos of him. Former California Rep. on her back Katie Hill, who resigned from Congress last year, later weighed in on the matter. "Many of you know that Matt Gaetz and I have an unlikely friendship," Hill tweeted. "I can't stand a lot of his beliefs, but he's been there for me when others haven't. He talks about Nestor more than anything, has done so much for his son, and is truly a proud dad. This free Nestor thing is bullshit. Stop." Also, he was never hiding his son, Hill continued in a second tweet. "He was trying to protect him from the crap that comes out about politicians' kids, especially after what Nestor has been through, especially in his political climate. Now that Nestor is grown, he's made his own choice to enter the spotlight. Good for them." So, I don't know what the situation is with Nestor, but it is interesting. And the kid looks like he's a good kid. He's raised up alongside Matt Gaetz's other kid. They do seem like a family. So, I don't know. I thought this was interesting. I didn't even realize this was a thing until yesterday, but it's a good thing. It doesn't have to be blood. It can be family. And I understand that most of all because of, I have 3 families on top of my immediate family. I've got a brother that came in because his children were going to grow up without a grandfather, and I've got 4 other siblings that I would have never had because I spent so much time in their house growing up that I called their parents mom and dad too. So I understand the feeling of family out of something that isn't family. I really do. I truly do. And it's an amazing feeling. So if this is how Gaetz feels about Nestor, then it's an amazing feeling and the best of work for him. But yes, of course, as we see, people are going to use the kid as a political prop, and even sometimes Gaetz is going to slip and possibly use the kid as a political prop as well. So nobody's perfect. But what goes on inside the home, behind closed doors, outside of the cameras, is the most important part. So that is going to be it for the news today. And on Friday, as we always do, we are going to read and thank everybody who chatted in the live chat. And it looks like you guys were active. I was kind of glancing over, and it did look like you did make a new friend over here on the Twitch side of it. But let's see what we have here. We've got Seawall 728. Saying "Make Texas Proud Company." Elephant Man 007, thanks for coming in and checking us out. Ron Helton, thanks for coming on in. Woke Legend, thanks for coming on and checking us out. It looked like you weren't real pleased with my broadcast, but thanks for staying as long as you did. Seawall 728, read that one already. Let's see, who else do we have here? No Sully today. Just so you know, Seawall, you are a mod over on Twitch if you ever need to use it. I did mod you over there. I think that's it. I don't see any Sully today. Oh well. He's probably busy with work. Alright. But now we'll go through and read the chat of everybody else who chatted throughout the day. So working backwards, on Thursday we had Sully Blue, Elephant Man, Ron Helton, Wesley Frex, who was a YouTube viewer who had a lot of symbols in his name. Looks like he didn't know what was going on much either, but welcome on in. Seawall, Dab Cannabis, and Yusef Akaya just followed yesterday as well. So thanks everybody who chatted yesterday. Wednesday we had Seawall, Ron Helton, Sully Blue, and Spartan were all here. So thanks everybody who came and chatted that day. Tuesday we had Sully Blue, we had Saint, Ron Helton. We had a Weston 2K 2121, that was a new name. Thanks for coming and checking us out. Dab Cannabis was here, Seawall 728, and Mirage Leonardo 84 was in. That was a new name as well, so thanks for coming and checking us out. On Monday we had Seawall, Ron Helton, Unsatiable 1776 was in here. The Chill Anarchist came in and checked us out for the day. And Dab Cannabis 420 was in here as well. So thanks everybody who came in and chatted with us throughout the week. I will go back and read a little bit more detail of what we had going on through here. See more of what was going on with this conversation before. I'll check into that later. And we're going to head on out of here. Thanks everybody who checked us out through the week. And remember, if I ever get caught back up with it again, you can check out all of the episodes of Contemporary and Ed's World over on the audio platforms or on demand over on YouTube, BitChute, or... No, that's about it, isn't it? For on demand again. We will be back here tomorrow with an Ed Talk, and we may actually have a guest on Ed Talk as well. So I'm in the works for something right now, so come back and check us out. We will be we'll be doing some questions and answers, so make sure that you're in and you get your questions in. Come and check us out. Otherwise, we will be back here on Monday with more Ed's World and more Contemporary. Until then, I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary.